In August 2026, paleontologists announced a new species of animal, one that has been extinct since the last ice age. It was not found in a desert badland or a quarry or a cliff face on some distant coast. It was found in a drawer in a museum in the middle of Los Angeles. The bones have been sitting in that collection since the 1950s. 7 decades in a tray, catalogued and labeled and filed, and nobody looked again. The animal is a spadefoot toad. A fully grown one is a few centimeters long. Its name is Spea labreae, and it came out of the richest Ice Age fossil site on Earth, a place famous for animals 1,000 times its size. In more than a century of digging there, it is the first extinct amphibian species anyone has found. To see why that took 100 years, you have to understand what the tar actually collects and what it does not. On Wilshire Boulevard, in the Miracle Mile district, there is a park where the ground leaks. Crude oil rises along the 6th Street fault out of the Salt Lake oil field, which lies under this part of the city. It reaches the surface in pools, and the lighter fractions evaporate or are eaten away by bacteria. What is left behind is asphalt, heavy, black, and slow. It has been seeping up here, continuously, for tens of thousands of years. Bubbles break the surface, so the pools look like they are boiling. They are not hot. People have known about this ground for a very long time. The Chumash and the Tongva used the tar to seal plank canoes. The first written record of the seeps comes from a Spanish expedition in 1769. The scouts reported springs of tar boiling up out of the ground, enough, they said, to caulk many vessels. They named them the Volcanes de Brea, the tar volcanoes. The gas is methane, and it is made by bacteria that live inside the asphalt and feed on the petroleum. Around 200 to 300 species of those bacteria were found here that had never been described anywhere else. Sometimes the deposit grew thick enough and sticky enough to hold an animal that walked into it. Water, dust, and fallen leaves settled on top of it, and the trap became invisible. A large plant eater blundered in and could not pull itself free. Its distress drew predators which came for an easy meal and were caught in turn. Paleontologists call this a predator trap, and it skews the deposit sharply. Most of the large mammals recovered from La Brea are carnivores, which is the reverse of any living ecosystem. Direwolves, saber-toothed cats, Smilodon fatalis, the state fossil of California, short-faced bears, American lions, Columbian mammoths, western horses, ancient bison, and ground sloths built like furniture. As the bones sank, asphalt soaked into them and stained them dark brown and black. It also sealed them. The preservation here is extraordinary, with remarkably little bacterial damage even to the proteins in the bone. The oldest material dated from these seeps is about 38,000 years old. There were once more than 100 separate pits in this ground. Most were filled in as the city grew over them. In 1901, a Union oil geologist called W. W. Orcutt recognized that the bones coming out of the asphalt were not ranch animals. They had been written off for years as cattle and horses lost in the tar. The ranch had lost plenty of both. Serious excavation began in 1913. In 2 years, the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County took 750,000 specimens out of 96 sites. That is the scale of this place. Not a rare fossil here and there, a warehouse of them. Today, only one of the original pits, Pit 91, is still excavated on a regular schedule. The other active dig is called Project 23. In 2006, 16 fossil deposits turned up during construction of an underground car park next door. Rather than lose them, crews boxed up 23 great blocks of asphalt and bone and moved them onto museum ground. Inside one of them was a nearly complete Columbian mammoth nicknamed Zed. Those blocks are still being worked through, a few centimeters at a time. In 2022, the site was listed among 100 geological heritage sites worldwide. In July 2026, the museum closed for a 2-year rebuild. All of that is the story of the big animals, the mammoths, the cats, the wolves, the mounted skeletons in the hall. The new species did not come from any of it. Because the asphalt does not only catch mammoths, it catches everything. Wood, seeds, leaves, and pollen grains. Insects, snails and clams. The bones of rodents. Dust. These are the microfossils, and getting at them is nothing like excavating a skeleton. The matrix of asphalt and sandy clay is washed with a solvent to strip the petroleum out of it. What is left gets picked through under a high-powered lens, fragment by fragment. It is slow, unglamorous work, and it is where the fine detail of this site actually lives. It has also changed the picture. Turning that attention on the microfossils revealed the diversity and abundance of small mammals nobody had counted. The site was never really a museum hall full of predators. That was an artifact of what was big enough to notice. Because a mammoth tells you very little about local conditions. A mammoth ranges over enormous distances. Where it died is not necessarily where it lived. A snail does not do that. Neither does a toad. A spadefoot is named for the hard, keratin-covered wedge on each hind foot. It digs with it backwards and lowers itself into the ground rather than burrowing forwards into it. You can tell one from a true toad by the vertical pupils, the smooth skin, and the missing glands behind the eyes. Every one of those features is soft tissue. Not one of them fossilizes, which means a fossil spadefoot has to be identified from the shapes of small, hard, unglamorous bones and nothing else. Amphibians, as a rule, do not travel long distances during their lives, and they are acutely sensitive to their surroundings, to temperature, to moisture, to whether the pools fill in spring. Their skin exchanges water and gas directly with the air in the soil. They cannot seal themselves off from the weather. That combination, stays put and feels everything, makes an amphibian an unusually precise instrument. Work out which amphibians were present and which were absent, and you could reconstruct the environment they were living in. Not the climate of a continent, the climate of a particular patch of ground, over a particular few thousand years. There is a catch, and it is a serious one. Frogs, toads, and salamanders have thin, delicate skeletons that rarely survive long enough to fossilize. Outside asphalt sites like this one, they are close to absent from the record. Which brings us back to the drawer. The reptile and amphibian collections at Brea had not had a detailed assessment in nearly 30 years. Dr. Alberto Cruz began working through them while he was a postdoctoral fellow at the Tar Pits. He was not hunting for a new species. In his own words, he is more a paleoecologist and paleogeographer than a taxonomist. He was building a picture of an environment, and the small bones were his raw material. Then some of the spadefoot bones stopped matching. The shapes were different, so were the sizes. His first thought was not new species. It was that these bones came from an animal that had been sick or injured. That is the disciplined guess. Disease and injury are common. New species are rare. So he tested it the only way it can be tested, by comparison against animals we can hold. He worked through roughly 80 specimens of modern spadefoot toads. Some in the herpetology collections of the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County. Others at the Museum of Vertebrate Zoology in Berkeley. An injury marks one individual. It does not repeat itself in the same way across a whole set of bones. What Cruz is looking at repeated. The same features, specimen after specimen. In his words, I reviewed a lot of specimens until I was convinced. This material is originally from the 1950s, he said, but when you study it again, you can find gold in these specimens. The description was published this month in the Journal of Vertebrate Paleontology. Naming a species is not a label. It is an anchor. One physical specimen is designated the holotype, and from then on, the name is attached to that object, permanently. If anyone ever wants to argue about what Spea labreae is, there is a real thing in a real drawer to go and argue with, which is the whole case for keeping collections that nobody has looked at for 30 years. Spea labreae, the spadefoot of Brea. It is the first extinct amphibian species ever described from the Tar Pits, and only the second extinct Ice Age amphibian known from the whole of North America. The other is a tree frog from Florida. That is the complete list. 2. Think about what that means. Not that these animals were rare. Spadefoots are abundant where they live. A single female can lay 2,000 eggs in a season. It means their bones almost never make it into the record at all. Cruz suspects other extinct amphibians and reptiles existed here, and simply left nothing durable enough to find. A whole category of Ice Age animal, mostly missing. Not because it was not there, but because it did not fossilize. And the way a spadefoot lives makes that worse. They spend most of their lives underground, in a low-energy state, waiting. Rain is what wakes them, the low-frequency sound of thunder reaching down through the soil. They dig their way up, breed in temporary pools, and then race the drying. In the western spadefoot, A tadpole can go from hatching to a toad in 12 or 13 days. It is among the fastest development known in any amphibian. An animal built entirely around a puddle that might not come. The same study turned up something else. Among the bones was the first known record of the Mexican burrowing toad in the southwestern United States. Rhinophrynus is a genuinely strange animal. It is the only living member of its entire family. Its lineage separated from the other amphibians more than 190 million years ago. It eats ants and termites underground, and it is very nearly as wide as it is long. Today, its nearest populations to Los Angeles are around 2,500 kilometers away, in southern Mexico. It was here. Now it is not, and neither is anything like it, which tells you that Ice Age Los Angeles was not this city with a colder sky over it. It was a different place, cooler, wetter, with pools that filled reliably enough to raise generations of toads. Both of those animals are gone from here now. One of them is gone completely. The mammoths get the mural, and the mounted skeletons, and the crowds outside. But the animal that tells you what it was actually like to stand on this ground is the one you could have missed by blinking. It was in the collection the whole time, collected by people who had no idea what they had and kept anyway. That is the argument for the drawers. Not that we know what is in them, but that we do not. And, as the site's excavation director put it, after a century of digging, there is definitely more to come.